I noticed that there's this thing that happens when a person starts to get a lot of romantic attention, and it quietly starts messing with their ability to read people accurately. And it's not because they're dumb, they're not shallow, not always, but it's just that this attention has a way of rewiring how you evaluate everything, especially when it comes to figuring out who's actually genuine and who's just enjoying the effect that they have on you, you know? I notice this shows up with women a lot more than it does with men, at least from what I've personally observed. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it happens with guys too. I've been a victim of that when I was younger. Um, but you see it more often with women. And it's not because women are not worse at reading people in general, okay? It's just that the volume and intensity of romantic attention that women get, it tends to be higher than men's, you know? And when you're constantly on the receiving end of guys trying to get your attention, it becomes harder to tell the difference between somebody who actually wants something real and someone who's just doing what a lot of guys do, which is flirt just for the fun of flirting. And I think one of the things that I don't hear a lot of people talk about enough is that a lot of men, I've watched this happen plenty of times, and I used to do this a lot myself. Um, but they'll flirt with a girl that they actually don't have any interest in, zero interest in pursuing. Um, and they do it purely just because it feels good to make someone feel special, you know? And so it's not really about the girl. It's about the fact that we enjoy being the reason that somebody's face lights up for a second. Um, I tried to stop doing this actually some time ago. I've tried to be much more um, intentional with my actions and behaviors and words. But so anyway, one of the part that I know stings a little bit is when the girl that's receiving that attention isn't used to getting that kind of attention, right? On the regular basis, it that attention hits differently for her, right? Um, because it's rare, that attention feels more meaningful. Um, she starts to feel like maybe this is actually going to go somewhere. Meanwhile, the guy, he walks away and forgets the interaction happened by the next day. So now you've got this weird imbalance, right? Where one person is interpreting a small moment or that spark, you know, like something real, while the other person was just kind of enjoying a temporary ego boost from being someone's favorite for 5 minutes. And that gap in interpretation is where a lot of confusion and heartbreak actually comes from. Now, flip that to what happens when someone starts getting attention from somebody that's noticeably more attractive than they're used to. This is where the self-read really starts to break down, because suddenly the brain starts to go into this mode where it just starts justifying everything, every little bad behavior. Any red flag gets explained away. Any inconsistency gets a generous interpretation, because subconsciously there's this thought running through everything, which is like, someone like this doesn't come around very often, so I should hold on a bit tighter than I normally would. That mindset starts to lower the standard that people would normally apply if the behavior came from somebody more, we'll say, visually less impressive. It's kind of weird though how much attractiveness can override your discernment, because the actual character, the traits of a person, the loyalty, honesty, consistency, none of that changes based off of how attractive somebody is. But a lot of us, we evaluate people. Um, we have, I'll say that we evaluate those traits. The way that we evaluate those traits, it shifts based on the level of attraction that is involved in that situation, right? Somebody who might normally clock, a manipulative pattern starts making excuses for it just because the source of that behavior is coming from somebody that they didn't expect to be interested in the first place. I think that's the real danger in all of this, right? It's not that the attention itself is bad. It's that there's a surplus of the attention, right? And it's coming from an unexpected place. And that can quietly start to convince somebody that they're a better judge of character than they really are. Especially in those specific situations, because their guard drops the moment that flattery starts entering the room, right? Flattery has never once been a reliable indicator of somebody's actual true intentions. So I think it's worth asking, when you feel yourself getting pulled towards somebody, especially fast, is it their character that's actually pulling you? Or is it that they noticed you? And noticing you felt rare enough that your brain skipped the part where it's supposed to actually pay attention to who they are. I grew up with that mindset for a long time when I was younger, because I lived in the countryside. I didn't have that, experience being around other people. Didn't have any girls attracted to me. And then when I did go around to where other people were, I was as much of a man's man as I was in action. I was a very pretty boy. I looked very androgynous, and I was a bit too nice. I grew up being super polite and all of that. And not that that's a bad thing, but I wasn't the typical type that girls would clamor after, even though I was attractive. So I fell into that trap when I was younger. So I know how it feels. I understand how the brain tricks itself. I've been through it. So I'm not just talking completely out my butt. But the things I'm saying are real. They're true. It's fact. I don't need to be right, but I know I'm right about this. So just think about it. I'm not attacking just women. I'm not attacking men. I'm attacking the behavior. Because this is something that we all gotta put a clamp on inside of ourselves. You feel me?